Hey guys, it's Daniel. The following is a clip from my interview with Rolling Stone's recording engineer Tapani Talo. If you want to see the full interview, it's linked below. What was it like working with Mick Jagger in the studio? Would he be the kind of guy that he would record half hour break, or would he go for like 2 hours straight?
Oh, no. We would just go. Gee whiz, we wouldn't stop. I think it was one time, and we were take number 140. I said, "This is not going anywhere." The Mick said, "Oh, this is nothing compared to what we have done in the past."
Really?
And then we did hit it. It was like 10 takes after that. We got it right.
Do you know what song this was?
No, I don't remember which one.
Hey,
but
no
it was
worries.
one of those
lesser known ones?
Sort of a song that sort of fills the album. I don't remember which one it was, but it was really rough.
Hey, it's all good. Was this for the It's Only Rock and Roll record?
No, it was for Black and Blue.
Black and Blue? That's cool.
He really had still has academic clarity to what needs to be done. He has a broader view. He pays attention to. He really pays attention to all kinds of stuff. That's why he was able to write all those lyrics. When you think about how many albums lyrics he had today, but that really shook the world. So he didn't just define himself as a singing. He was intellectually in the thinking about the message, and then the message he was able to think music as a whole with all different musical performance. He could put it together. He was a very atypical musician in that sense. That alone is one of the reasons why they still play.
Interesting.
It's like if you have Rembrandt painting, it's for him that's just normal, right? And try to find somebody else who makes that normal. It doesn't exist. That's the unique part of all the great singers, and Janis Joplin. I mean, it's all personal. Mick didn't break too many rules. He just knew how to express whatever the song needed to be expressed, and not going off the left or off to the right too much. It just had the right energy to. That's all. It's all about. Stones is really about. It's rock.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and rock has ballads too, but most bands can't make it rock.
So on a technical level, were there any particular mics that you like to use to record Mick Jagger's vocals?
No, actually, that's an interesting one, because we had a whole slew of mics, and there was one time took 2 hours to find the right mic. Nothing seemed to work, and we couldn't get the rhythm right, and they couldn't get this song. And I was getting really panicky at one point.
One thing I'm curious about, I recently spoke with one of AC/DC's engineers, and he says that when Brian Johnson would record vocals, he would actually physically hold the mic. Was there anything like that Mick Jagger would do that was kind of peculiar when it came to recording?
No, we didn't have that kind of stuff. No, he preferred the stationary mic because he was a pretty perfectionist at that point. He was really thinking intellectually, nuances. There was one song I told him that you were like 47 times flat and 38 times sharp. And he said, "You tell that one more time and you're out of it." Because he said, that's not the point. The point is the roughness. So
that's cool. Would he warm up a lot before singing, or would he just kind of jump right into it?
Well, you have to remember that when we normally worked, it was hours at a time.
Okay.
So you would start up, and no, you never hit it on the first go. I mean, if you're really lucky, you got it in half an hour or something. That would be a miracle. Yeah.
So between It's Only Rock and Roll and Black and Blue, did Mick's approach to recording vocals change at all, or was it more or less the same thing still?
I think we changed. The Black and Blue really was a change album, and Some Girls was really the end result of it. That was where it was heading. But there was this difficult moment. Like Bill Wyman said, that I was working with them in the most difficult part of their whole career. Because you have Mick Taylor, and then also musically the reggae was kind of coming to an end, and they didn't know which way to go. It was what would be the new direction. That got resolved with the Some Girls. Mick's ability to shift his persona based on the songs. I mean, that was really art. I mean, I have never seen all the other bands that would do some theatrical stuff. They stayed in that one mold. Mick would have, he would go from incredibly romantic, he could go to, different nuances, and he would act them in the most amazing ways in the early days. He sees the world in a bigger way and different directions and everything else. I suddenly realized that there was like 6 different Mick Jaggers there.
Interesting.
I mean, that alone is if somebody pulls out 2 personas in the show, that's a lot. But he each song, he would literally melt into his part. He would become a real persona to that. And it was true. It's not something that he was just faking out. He really, really, truly became it. And the audience understands it. I mean, that audience is really good at when it's done right. And I think that's part of the magic, that as he got older, for instance, when we had the Starfucker and the things flying up in the air from the stage, those are like a different nuances. They're less romantic and theatrical, but they do their own thing.
I hear you. I'm always curious about like the band dynamics, especially with a band as big as the Rolling Stones. Like, would there ever be any times where, from your experience, Mick would have an idea and then Keith would like kind of shoot it down, or vice versa? Like, would they ever?
Of course. I mean it was very quick. It wasn't labored or anything like that. It was like and they would try it out, and then it would be settled. So
that's cool. So I mean, they were very upfront with each other, but there was still that amicability between the two of them. Right.
It was a little later when they broke up and went their own ways, and Ian Stewart was like, oh. But it was incredibly useful for them to do it at that point in there, and then be able to assess. When I heard Mick's own solo album, oh boy, it was. And Keith realized that he couldn't bring anything like Stones into the picture.
Interesting.
And so once they failed, then they were right back in the same car.
I hear you. So in your estimation, how important was that kind of creative tug and pull between Mick and Keith when it came to the Stones?
In any creative act, you have to have that. It doesn't matter if it's music or like in architecture. When I work with Philip Johnson or others, if you can't bring that pull into the picture, then you're not really doing it. You're not being creative. You're not driven. You're not pushing boundaries, and that's no good.
So not necessarily tension, but the creative differences, so to speak, between Mick and Keith actually kind of helped create the sound of the band, so to speak. Is that fair?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like I said, the division of labor, but then each song has its own intricacies. I mean, particularly if it felt not quite ballad, but not a hard driving piece. That's where you start getting the more nuanced solutions, where you don't really know if it's going this way, it's going that way, and how you should approach it. The nuances were different. Mick would sometimes say, "Well, this is a little too repetitive, or it's not doing the right thing," and then they would quickly reassess it. Or if they couldn't do it in the studio, they did that stuff at night on the tape recorder, and come back in the morning. That's the interesting thing between the Keith and Mick, is Mick sees the overall better, and Keith knows how to get the groove of the song to do its thing. And so that balance, that's a unique, because it's equal and it's slightly different, but makes the totality just what it's supposed to be.
So Mick Jagger was more the big picture guy, and Keith Richards was more like the specific, detailed person?
Well, he made sure that it's kind of like just like hitting the chord. It would be just the right mode. It would be the right impact. And then between Charlie and Bill, just to sort of, I think he said, I mean, Charlie was the hidden genius in the whole game.
So between Mick and Keith in particular, was there, I mean, you mentioned now like the differences in terms of what their contributions were, generally speaking. Was there anyone that would take the leadership role more, or was it more even?
Different songs. If it's a ballad, Mick would take more, obviously. That's that because he had to sing completely differently.
Okay.
And if it was an upbeat thing, then it falls between really Charlie and Keith. Like "Time Waits for No One," for instance, a song which is really melodic piece. That's where Mick really there he was like the Beethoven. I mean, that's the only way I could put it. Certain areas you needed to have Mick, and certain areas you needed to have Keith. And then in the middle range, then they had to figure out that ground, how to build up that song so it stayed crisp and or swinging or whatnot. It's the middle ground songs that are kiss of death of bands in general, because if it's not this and it's not that, and then they still have to do it, and then it gets into this.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so
it's interesting. What was it like working with Keith Richards in particular? Like, was there anything unique about his approach to recording guitars that stuck out to you?
No, I was warned because before me, we would go and have long sessions, and then you go to sleep, and 2 hours later, they would come and shake you up and go back to studio. I only had one experience like that.
That's interesting.
I was really struck how he could hear the minutest drifts in the beat. Ian Stewart had warned me that Keith would always immediately turn up the amp and it would be just destroyed. The sound would be. I mean, and so I had actually placed a secondary amp of his feed, and I controlled the volume of it and had separate mics on it. So I had always had a perfect sound for Keith, no matter what he did.
That's cool.